Janelle, I want to address her question. How can small town weeklies help in this battle with the limited resources we have? Our democracy depends on this. Paul or Bob, would you like to answer that? Paul, you mentioned how people can join the case, but she's concerned about limited resources. I guess what kind of a commitment are you guys looking for from the publishers?
Yeah, this is Bob. So numbers are important, I think, and just showing that type of commitment to join in, whether big or small, makes a difference. It's obviously better to have bigger plaintiffs, so far as economics is concerned, but smaller ones also. That's important. This newspaper, the threat to the newspapers is for everybody, big and small. It doesn't make a difference. We've lost in the last 15, 20 years, we've lost 20% of the newspapers in this country, which is just a staggering figure. And if we all don't join together, then even more devastation is going to occur in the newspaper business. But Matt, if I want to just go on. You've heard two guys, and I get to go third, which is not an easy position, obviously, in this with those two guys. But Lee is responsible with his desire and passion to push this thing. We're here because of Lee Wolverton. He's pushed this thing, and it's been his passion as a newspaper person of 35 years. He's just not gonna let unfairness go untreated. He's addressed the issue, and you heard Paul Farrell. There's no question. All you got to do is listen to Paul Farrell. There's nobody better at convincing somebody. There's nobody better with passion. I've always described Paul as the guy when you were a kid, you kind of pick sides. You said, okay, who do you want in the trenches if you got to go to war? Who's your number one pick? Well, if you get a battle in the legal courtroom, Paul Farrell's the guy. And I think everybody just kind of witnessed that already. He's even better when he prepares. He didn't prepare a whole lot for today, I think. He's amazing. He was the architect of the opioid case. It's a complicated litigation. It has legal issues that are first impression. Put that together, tried the case for 3.5 months, and has organized the thing nationally. They came up with a national settlement, $26 billion right now. It's proposed, and it looks like it's going through. And he's the guy behind that entire endeavor, his firm. And there's a guy by the name of Paul Geller. He's probably the best antitrust lawyer in the country. At least he's known for that. He's phenomenal. And we have John Herman also from out of Atlanta. These guys are, in fact, I try to be quiet. That's why I'm number 3 here, because I don't like to speak up when those guys were talking, all of them. I just listen, and I learn so much by listening. But this is something real to the newspapers. I got involved. One of the reasons I got involved is I do a lot of defamation work. I've represented a bunch of national newspapers and journals and TV series programs and things like that. Here in West Virginia, they say a lot of bad stuff about us, so we get a lot of defamation cases around here. So anyways, we've defended those. The free press, this is the ideal case. This is the newspaper. This is what our country was founded upon. And Thomas Jefferson, said something like the government without a newspaper or a newspaper without a government. And he said every time, he says, I would choose to have the newspaper. That's the most important thing, even more important than government itself. And, that's what our country was founded upon. That's why we're first, in the Constitution, freedom of the press. This is an important thing. It's something, and we need to get together. The lawsuit that we have pending, Matt, has basically 4 branches to it. There's an attorney generals that from the country have brought that. There's 2 publishers type litigations that are class actions. And then there's the case that Paul and the Geller firm and our firm have filed, and Mr. Herman's firm had filed. And that has to do exclusively right now with newspapers. We're trying to keep it isolated to newspapers also, because we think that that's unique and it's different and it has some special rationale behind as to why it is a good litigation. So we're real proud. This is a fun case. We all make money. You guys have all your lawyer jokes about making money. This is a case that you really like to do just because. I don't want to say I want to do it for free, but it's something that you really enjoy and you really feel can make a difference. This is something we all can make a difference nationally on, actually. This is this is the survival.
Right.
And someone asked, I think, in the process of this question about the resources and I think time commitment. And I think these guys know these are absolutely brilliant guys. They know they could call anytime, and I would be responsive to it. I think it's the most important thing I do in the course of my day is if ever they ask for anything. But I can say these guys have taken on, Bob and Paul and Robin Geller have taken this on with no money coming for it, and they have carried. I've learned so much following the case about what's happened to us and what's going on. It has not been an extraordinary commitment. If it did get to be that, and I know as it proceeds, there could be times when more is needed. That is time extraordinarily well spent because this is a historic thing that we're engaged in here. So if ever more time was needed, I see that as something I'm happy to give. But the time that these guys have already put into this, the extraordinary effort they put into it, it's phenomenal. And from our standpoint, I mean, it's our effort compared to what they've done so far has been minimal.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I just want to answer questions as they're coming up here. And again, draw everyone's attention to the chat. Matt McMillan asks, what's the time horizon for the suit? When is this going to trial? Any idea on that or the status? What's the next step for you guys?
Yeah, this is Bob again. We're really in the initial stages still. There's a motion to dismiss that one of the judges is ruling upon. Everybody's pretty much waiting for that. We've received a bunch of records. That's called discovery. We received over a couple million records here recently. But it's going to be, these things do take some time. So you really do have to have a lot of patience. It's going to take a while. We're in the very early stages, waiting for motions to dismiss to be ruled upon. In the Attorney General's case right now, we're waiting for that.
And those are the documents that you're dropping there, Paul. Just tell us, what are those links?
Yeah, so one is the congressional research puts on a hyperlinked report about the lawsuits that were filed by the FTC and the DOJ. The most recent one is an actual link to the 450-page congressional report. I actually dropped in the PowerPoint presentation. I dropped in the original complaint filed by HT Media that Lee mentioned. And I also dropped in the NMA Google white paper that Lee mentioned.
Thank you very much for that. Everyone should be getting those links now. Keep those questions coming. Really great. We appreciate your participation. I do have a couple for you here lined up. What is Google and Facebook's argument that they are not an illegal monopoly? Can you walk us through that? Are you anticipating their argument's going to be? You've laid out your argument very clearly. Any idea of how they're coming at this?
I kind of hate the answer. They may be listening. Google and Facebook kind of listening in all the time, I think, on this, and we don't want to know what we're thinking. Actually,
sure, fair enough.
They've got press releases that they put out there.
Yeah,
they think this is laissez-faire capitalism. This is doing your job well.
I think they've been really pushing the argument that the internet wants to be open and free, and they've been pushing that narrative for years. If you just look at another type of media like music or image copyright, that is something that they are enforcing on a regular basis. I literally published a video yesterday with some music on it, and I got all these notifications, of course, and it was taken down. So why isn't this happening for news, or why hasn't it happened for news? Any thoughts on that, or are you going to use music and what has happened there as part of your argument, or as part of a model for how this could work going forward?
Well, I think you guys can speak. Copyright is sort of a separate issue, isn't it?
Okay.
For the lawyers, you guys should answer that above me. But I think that is an area that we also need to explore. But like I said, Bob and Paul can correct me, but that I don't think is within the parameters of what we're dealing with right now.
I see.
Is that right, guys?
Yeah, this is Bob. That's correct. Yeah, it would complicate things, and it would change a lot of the legal strategies and things. It would just really complicate it. If we can just stick with the newspaper, which is what we're trying to do, and trying to keep that isolated, because what it is, I think things will go much smoother and much better. That's what we think right now. Now, in the future, something may change, the law may change, a ruling by a judge may change, and we may change in reaction to that. But right now, that's pretty much our position.
Right. I understood. I think it was actually Bob that said these things do move slowly, but it's nothing compared to the snail's pace of legislation being passed and the things happening in Australia. Paul dismissed that right away. That's not what you're doing here. You're looking for a much more sustainable model, much more fair payout.
Man, I just one thing I think too for publishers who are out there, and this is just going to be a source of frustration following this for me.
Yes.
I think there has been a lot of false hope placed in the Local Journalism Sustainability Act, which is moving through Congress. I mean, I'm for anything that helps us, so I'm not against that act. But if you look at the numbers that we've talked about in the course of this call, it tells you that's not enough. It's if you think that's going to help us, help us, sure, any help. But if you think that's going to fix this problem or prevent what we talked about before with, the continued decline in advertising revenues and where that's going to leave us, that's naive. So, I think people ought to be saying, let's do both. Let's pursue this antitrust claim that we're talking about now, and you can certainly be for the Local Journalism Sustainability Act, but don't think that's going to fix the problem. It will not.
Another question from Matt here. How many newspapers are part of the suit, and do you have a goal number of publishers? Paul, I think maybe those links are answering that question.
The short answer is that these are the links I'm giving you are discussions about the lawsuit, but I think Bob can address this best.
Right. We presently have 37 newspaper groups. We have 227 newspapers, individual newspapers, and that spans now presently 20 different states in the country.
The deal that you presented, basically no cost to the newspaper. If you lose, if you win, there's obviously a huge payout. Comment from D. Wade. There is a direct correlation between less print display advertising and paid circulation. Lee, any comment on that or any response to that?
There's a correlation, he's saying, between the decline in print advertising and circulation.
Yes.
There is absolutely a correlation between them. When the money's not there, we are forced to make decisions, and it's affected everything. Newsroom employment has fallen in newspapers from 70,000 to 30,000. So there's a drop of more than half, and there's an impact from that. When there are fewer reporters, it hinders our ability to cover communities, and it hinders the overall quality of our products. There's clearly a direct correlation, and that's why I think conversely, the other side of it is there's a direct correlation if we can find a way to rejuvenate our business model through this and what we would be able to do in coverage of our communities.